My entitled Karen of a friend absolutely ruined my trip to Puerto Rico, causing problems for me and my friends left and right, while also being completely unwilling to pay back me for any of the stuff that I bought. And honestly, I'm so glad that I cut her off, and I seriously hope I never have to deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. So for starters, this happened 5 years ago. My friend from college, we'll call her Sarah, got engaged and was getting married in Puerto Rico. She invited me and my 2 other college friends, let's call them Amy and Sherry. When they got engaged, Sherry went on a tangent about how he was a terrible guy, how he was not good enough for Sarah, and decided that she wasn't coming to the wedding and told Sarah as much. And trust me, it was a very bad fallout. Now, for some reference here, he is actually terrific. She was just jealous and some other things, but that's not really pertinent to the story. So Amy and I decided to travel without her and make a whole vacation out of the trip. We decided we wanted a relaxing vacation with an upscale hotel, daily visits to the beach, and we must have good food and pina coladas in our hands at all time. Sherry and Sarah had made up after a long talk, and Sherry wanted to join us. In fact, she wanted to derail our entire trip. Sherry didn't want the same vacation as Amy and I. She wanted a cheap Airbnb, adventurous excursions, and honestly, she was on a tight budget. I had just recovered from a terrible injury, and I was extremely limited with my mobility, so I couldn't hike or be on my feet for long periods of time. We tried compromising with hotels and activities, but she refused. So we decided that Amy and I would book the hotel that we wanted, and she got a disgusting Airbnb down the street. I put my card down for everything with the agreement that they would Venmo me later. And trust me when I say this was a massive mistake. I paid for the rental car, but Sherry apparently needed the car more than us so that she could do her activities in the first place, which really was fine. We just needed her to drop us off at the beach. Well, guess what happened? She left us stranded for hours. And when she did end up getting us, she wanted to smoke the herb in the car. And I'm like, no, you're driving and it's under my name. I am not going to get penalized for that. She then started getting passive aggressive with me and Amy. Fast forward, and we went to see some caves for one day, which is an activity that we compromise on that I was physically capable of doing. I was driving and she was giving me directions, and she kept missing to tell me when to exit. She was very high, and she snapped at me, calling me stupid, and that I was doing all of this on purpose. And when she did that, I just saw red. I told her to shut up and give me directions properly. She said that I wasn't allowed to talk to her like that, but I just said, well, now you know how it feels. And after that, it was really awkward for the rest of the trip. When we fly to our next location, the wedding destination, she becomes so much worse. I once again pay for the golf cart that we rented for the tiny island, which was highly recommended, by the way. The first night there, she's being a complete brat, so Amy and I escaped to get food and bring it back. I called up Sherry, and I said that I found a bodega across from the restaurant, and I asked what she wanted for the house stay. When I brought everything back, she said that I forgot items and started saying, where's the cheese? What am I going to eat my eggs with? Where's my Coke? What am I going to drink my rum with? At that point, I had it, and I just straight up asked her what I did to receive such a negative attitude. But of course, she passive aggressively just played dumb. Then, after pushing her for answers, she started calling me names and belittling me, so I just walked out. We ended up not talking the rest of the trip, and I upgraded my flight so I didn't have to sit with her. And when it was finally time for her to pay me back, she of course was incredibly resistant. I started off by saying, you owe me $75 for the golf cart. But Sherry responded by saying, well, you owe me for gas, so really I only owe you $50. Now, because I didn't want to argue with this lady, I just said fine. But that's when Sherry decided to keep going. She said to me, but since I purposefully tried to not travel in the golf cart to avoid you being an absolute jerk, I should only have to pay you maybe $25. Now, mind you, she was in the golf cart every single day, so what she was saying is just completely untrue. So I just snapped at her. I said to her, just keep your money. And trust me, some very choice words followed that sentence right after that. Eventually, she blocked me, so I lost it and I emailed her more choice words. I told her we are never going to be friends again and that nobody wanted her at the wedding, especially the mother of the bride and the groom in the first place. Amy and Sarah have cut ties with her completely, and none of us have spoken with her ever since. Now, I may have lost a friend, but the silver lining here is that I met my now husband at the wedding. So I made a trade by losing an awful person and gained this amazing person that is my husband. Wow, that lady is super entitled. Who goes on vacation just to act like that? Like she stepped off the plane and immediately had like a really bad attitude attitude about everything. She wasn't willing to compromise on literally anything you guys wanted to do. And when it was time for her to pay you back, of course, this lady's like, I don't have to pay you. It's like, what are you talking about? You literally used all the services that I purchased. Of course you're gonna pay me back. So honestly, good for you for cutting this lady off, because she sounds like an awful friend to begin with. And if the trade-off is that you find your husband and get rid of this weird lady, then in my opinion, you definitely came out on top. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my dad and stepmom that my brother does indeed come first before anyone else in the family? Here's what happened. So I have an older brother who is my favorite person. We share a mom but have different dads. My dad was his stepdad, but my brother and dad were not close. And when our mom passed away several years ago, my brother chose to finish high school at our grandparents' house and not live with dad and me. My dad remarried a year after my mom passed away, and my stepmom has a daughter who is 3 years younger than me, and then I have 2 half-siblings with them. My brother is a very big part of my life. I see him all the time. I go to his house whenever I can. I make sure I see him every Christmas no matter what else is going on. He's the family I will always prioritize, and he has always been great to me. If I could live with him easily, I would. My dad and stepmom don't like how much time I spend with my brother, but they also dislike that my brother buys stuff for me and doesn't ever get anything for the other kids here or even treats them like family. He has nothing to do with anyone else in the house. Things kind of bubbled up over Christmas when my stepsister was upset that I went to my brother's Christmas Eve and then her grandparents came over and I wasn't there and missed out on the family time. I was kind of glad to miss it, honestly. I'd rather be with my brother, and my dad is always such a pain when his in-laws are there because he wants me to call them grandma and grandpa. My dad and stepmom sat me down a couple days after Christmas and told me I need to stop putting my brother before everyone else because it comes across as him being first in my life instead of everyone else being equal. But I told them that he is first and he always will be, and I told them that nothing has changed for me. They said he shouldn't be my priority when it comes to siblings at least, because I have 4 siblings altogether and not just one. I didn't argue with him after that, and they were angry. I know my stepmom told my dad afterwards to just let me live with him to spare the other kids, but he said he couldn't do that or they'd never see me ever again. She then asked if that would be such a bad thing because clearly I don't care about them. Their disagreement led to me being told a few days later that I was behaving badly and that I shouldn't have said what I did. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I'm really sorry that your mom passed away, but also that your dad got married literally 1 year after she passed away. Like, I don't know about you, but that is really quick. Like, here you are grieving the loss of your mother still even a year later, and your dad suddenly marries this other woman out of nowhere. And according to the original poster further in the comment section, she mentioned that they got married after 2 to 3 months of meeting, and that it was a super crazy time. But when it comes to your brother, I don't think there's anything wrong with prioritizing him in your life, because honestly, you have a very serious connection with him, and he's somebody that you want in your life. So there really is nothing wrong with you going to visit him and like spending time on Christmas Eve, because after all, it was a holiday and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Even if you did miss out on your step-siblings' grandmother and grandpa coming over, like you wanted to spend time with your brother on Christmas Eve, like there's nothing wrong with that. And also, I kind of noticed that all the complaints are coming from your dad's wife. Like, it doesn't seem like your dad's the one who's like instigating these conversations, but instead it's your stepmother who's like basically trying to kick you out of the house. Like, that is so messed up, it's not even funny. And I know if I was in your situation, I would be devastated that somebody was having that conversation about me. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your stepmom and your dad are absolutely being jerks, and I don't think for a second there's anything wrong with you visiting your brother, especially since you have such a close connection. Am I the jerk for kicking my mother-in-law out of my house after she made some awful comments about my children? Here's what happened. For a little bit of an intro, my fiance and I have been engaged for a year and together for 5. My fiance is 27 years old and white, and I am 24 years old and I am black. And yes, before you ask, the races will be important later on. I have one child that is not his biologically, but that is still her daddy, and she calls him as such. He loves her like his own, and it's honestly been such a blessing and so endearing to watch. We also have a daughter together and a bundle of joy by on the way. So over the Christmas stretch, while everyone was at home, me and my fiance decided to have a get-together at our home. Altogether, it was his 2 siblings, my 3 siblings, and his nephew, with both of my parents and his mother, making that 9 guests plus our family of 4. Our families love each other and get along wonderfully except for his mother. And this story pretty much just involves his mother. The family gets together on the 26th of December and is having a pretty good time, but my brother pulled me to the side and told me that my mother-in-law had made a couple racist comments towards him and my parents, and also started questioning why our people would get so offended by the N-word. I told him I'd handle it later, but I did not want to spoil the party. About an hour later, things have picked back up and my mother-in-law is playing with my oldest, and I hear her say, "Oh, don't you wish you had hair that wasn't some heavy braids?" And before I could get there, she said, "You look like your mommy, but you would be prettier if you had skin like daddy." Now, my oldest looks like me with pretty dark skin, while my youngest looks exactly like her father, and honestly doesn't even look mixed. When I heard these comments, I saw red. I took my kids and nephews up the playroom, and I came back down and I told my mother-in-law to get out of my house and never come back. Well, when my fiance heard the commotion and I told him what happened, he was livid that I kicked her out without much fight back from her. I apologized to both families, and they said it wasn't my fault and understood. We then continued to have a great time. Well, for the past week, my mother-in-law has been blasting me on every social media platform, saying that I'm a jerk and swearing about me and saying pretty much everything under the sun. My fiance has been completely on my side, and we sent her a message together about her not being able to see the children anymore, and she's blasted and calling me a horrible mother while also threatening me. My fiance's father and one brother are angry with me, but otherwise people are mostly on my side, or some of them are starting to think that I went a little bit overboard with everything. Now, I feel bad about my kids not seeing her anymore, especially with a new baby on the way. So am I the jerk for kicking her out? What should I do? I do not think you are the jerk in the slightest. Your mother-in-law was completely out of line. She made some nasty, horrible comments about your girls that they will probably remember forever. Like, you just don't make those kind of remarks and think you can just get away with it. If I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have done the exact same thing, because those racist comments have no business being in your home, and she absolutely needed to be kicked out. My boyfriend is refusing to work as he has been fired from most of his jobs, and as a result, I'm being forced to pay for everything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 5 years. We lived together and we shared bills before. He had jobs off and on, and I constantly paid at least half and sometimes all the bills. Well, we broke up temporarily and I moved out and got my own place. And about April of last year, he moved back in with me, promising to continually work. He had a job when he moved in, but got fired 6 days later. He then got so mad about being fired that he refused to work and left it all up to me for a while. About September, he got hired somewhere else and it went great, and I was so happy that he was working, but it lasted a month or a month and a half before he got fired again. He was paying bills and paying me back for bills in the past. He didn't want to get fired from this job, and I know he actually liked it and really did deserve to keep this one. But when they fired him, he refused to work again, even to this day. And even though I have told him multiple times that I'm struggling to pay all the bills and buy everything we need alone, he still just argues with me about it. He tells me that he just got fired and then gets angry with me for asking for his help. We have 2 kids and a few animals. My bills are more than I get paid in a month, and I have to buy all of our necessities and what they want. I have a couple credit cards that are way too high, and I'm just getting myself so deep in debt. And worst of all is that he knows this. My rent just went up at the beginning of the year. My internet bill tripled, and I recently purchased a car in September, thinking that he will be consistently working again, and then when he stopped, it kind of ruined me because now I don't have that extra money. He always wants to buy the herb so he can sit around high and play some video games, and then when I say something about a job, he gets angry. He tells me that it's my house. Why would I rent a house that I can't afford by myself? But he creates a lot of the bills too and doesn't help at all. He will get too hot when it's 20 degrees outside, and instead of stepping outside, he turns the heat off and turns the air on as cold as possible. So I have to heat the house, cool it off, and then have to heat it up all over again. He does this all the time and other stuff similar to this that costs me way too much money, and I'm really getting tired of him mooching off of me. The kids even go to daycare while while I work, and I have to pay for that as well. So he's just sitting at home doing nothing, leaving me to work and do all the bills. I know that it sucks getting fired from a place that you like and you want to work, but he needs to be helping me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, you are 100% correct. This guy is using you completely, and he is not doing anything to motivate himself to get a job. And here's the thing, the fact that he keeps getting fired is proof enough that this guy is volatile. He is 100% the reason that this all happened to him, and nobody else is to blame. So honestly, I hope you're able to get through to him, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would not want to live with someone like that who is blatantly taking advantage of my kindness. My brother, for several years in his marriage, has tried to force his 2 kids to call his new wife their actual mother, even though their real mother passed away when they were just children. And now, after so many years of trying to force this on these kids, his kids no longer talk to him, and he's left wondering and asking me why that's the case. So I decided to be honest with him and explain exactly where he messed up. But now he is very mad at me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my brother has 2 children from his marriage to his late wife, Denise. His son just turned 20 and his daughter is 18 years old. And Denise passed away when the children were 6 and 7 years old. 18 months later, my brother met Catherine, his second wife, and they married after 4 months of knowing each other. Catherine was unable to have biological children, and she always dreamed of being a mom and wanted to be a mom to my nephew and niece. And my brother wanted this for her as well. But the kids did not want to be Catherine's children. They did not want to call her mom or be adopted by her. They did not want her to be the sole focus on Mother's Day, and the list of resistance just goes on and on. My brother spent years trying to get the children to call Catherine mom, and he and Catherine applied for her to adopt the kids and were rejected by the judge after she spoke to the children about what they wanted. They tried again and were denied by a different judge before making it to court. Things were always tense with my brother and his children. It was also tense with the rest of the family because some of us spoke up and asked why he was pushing this on the children so much. He would say that Catherine deserved to be a mom and deserved the respect for being a loving and nurturing mother to the kids. Mother's Day from the first year that they were married until the last year was very toxic. My brother no longer allowed the kids to see their maternal relatives that day, and they also didn't see any of us or visit the grave. He said the day in their family was for Catherine. He would make her breakfast and give her cards and gifts from the kids, and then the kids would tell her that she didn't deserve to be celebrated for Mother's Day and that she was nobody's mother. My brother didn't like it, and Catherine would be upset at the reminder, and the kids would also be quick to inform Catherine that they never wrote in the cards because my brother always addressed them to mom, and the kids never called her that. In the last few months, my brother has lost contact with all of his children. The last time they spoke to their dad, the kids told him that he put Catherine's wants before them, and they would never forgive him for that. They said that he has no right to make them be the children to fill the void for her when they already had a mom who they loved. My brother dismissed the idea entirely that he put Catherine before the kids like that, but when I saw him for New Year's at my parents' house, he was telling me about it, and I told him that his kids were right, and that he did put Catherine's needs way before his kids. I said he made her want to be a mother the most important thing, and tried to force the kids to comply and be her kids. But he told me that that is not what happened, and I should be sympathetic to him and to Catherine, who had her heart broken by the kids. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Okay, so it really sounds like the original poster's brother is absolutely out of line, and it sounds like he's been out of line for the entirety of him being a father to these kids. Like, the kids made it very clear, this is not my real mom, and I don't want to be adopted by her or forced to call her mom in any kind of way. And with all things considered, I don't blame them for feeling that way. They were 6 and 7 years old when their real mom passed away, and then for the rest of their childhood, their dad made Mother's Day incredibly toxic and tried to fit their children into this mold of basically trying to make them be like, no, Catherine is your mom. That is so messed up in my opinion, and it completely ignores the children. It really disrespects their needs and wants, and if anything, after a while, it's just gonna put them off. I can understand you trying this once or twice, but for you to do this all the way until they're adults, every single year on Mother's Day, that in my opinion is so uncalled for. Because I think you just made needless drama for literally no reason other than you trying to appeal to Catherine, who is obviously a stranger in these kids' lives. And even with that in mind, I can understand why the judge would turn you down. And they turned you down twice, by the way. If that's not an obvious clue that this is not going to work out, then I just don't know what is. So to that end, I don't think the original poster is a jerk in the slightest. Your brother asked your opinion and you told him straight up that you've been focusing way more on Catherine's comfort than your kids' comfort at all. Like, he seriously put his wife way ahead of his kids, and as a result, he basically made it so his kids are not wanting to talk with him ever again. And there's literally nobody to blame in that scenario except for himself. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.